please welcome our Master of Ceremonies, the former Governor of the State of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the Global Climate Action Summit. So glad to be able to welcome you. Everybody, come on, get in your seat, because we're going to be rocking and rolling. Awesome, awesome. So we are all here because we're committed. We're committed at the global level. We're committed at the national and state and local levels. We're committed at the Moscone Center level. The person who's in your seat right now is committed. And of course, this is so important for us because we know that the stakes are high. Yesterday, we heard from activists and protesters and policymakers and tribal leaders. We heard about communities that are in peril. We heard from victims of disasters that happen fast, like a fire, and insidious dangers that creep ahead slowly, like an oppressive heat wave or a drought or a slow-moving hurricane. In fact, right now, we are seeing the costs of inaction play out in real time. As I'm standing here, Hurricane Florence is pummeling the Carolinas, where some areas could see as much as 40 inches of rain. And at the same time, hurtling toward the Philippines is a storm that is 550 miles wide right now, with winds over 170 miles per hour. So families in both places are hunkered down in shelters, and patients have been evacuated from hospitals, and emergency personnel are working overtime. We can only guess how long it's going to take for life to return to normal, or even if such a thing is going to be possible after these storms clear. But against this urgent and scary backdrop, and against the backdrop of inaction in Washington, D.C., yesterday, we also heard a way forward. So right here on this stage, executives revealed their company's progress toward aggressively reducing carbon emissions. And mayors and governors and ministers declared the end of coal, and they committed to champion clean energy. Activists of every age called upon us to meet this defining challenge of our time, and hundreds here have stepped up to answer the call. So let's take a look at some of yesterday's highlights.
It is my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you to San Francisco.
This summit is about taking ambition to the next level.
Climate change threatens our workers, our jobs, and our economy.
The time for talk is past.
Are we condemned to a hothouse Earth?
You know, it all does start with the heart.
You're here, I'm here, because we care.
Our challenge is to fight pollution and poverty at the same time.
For us, combating global warming is not an issue, it is an ethic.
Over the last decade, the U.S. has cut its carbon emissions more than any other large nation in the world.
Now we're calling on every company to follow our lead, to commit to being net zero company and 100% renewable.
We now have put additional agreements in place to achieve our commitment of being carbon neutral by the end of 2020.
I'm just one of the young entrepreneurs around the globe trying to see how best we can find new solutions to champion climate change mitigations.
It's really about showing the world that everyone is moving forward on climate action, and we're all in this together.
Wedge by wedge, scale by scale, the solutions are in place. We have the technologies and we can succeed.
Let's bend the curve in the next 24 months.
What about us? The heavens are falling down. What about us? I can hardly breathe.
Our first speaker this morning has been breaking barriers all of her life. As a principal at 100-Year Starship, she's part of an effort to push humanity beyond our solar system in the next century. She is a former NASA astronaut. She's the first African-American woman in space. Please welcome the great Dr. Mae Jemison.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to tell you, first of all, how much I appreciate you letting me be here with you today. You see, there are 86,400 seconds in each day, and each one of those seconds is extremely precious because we can do with each of those seconds exactly as we please, but we can never get a single one of them back. And it's what we do with our time that makes it so important. So I have a short period of time when it's with you, and I want to start off by asking you a question. When was the last time you looked up? I'm asking you that because when we talk about space exploration, when we talk about the world, I'm reminded of an Ashanti proverb that says, "No one shows a child the sky." It is something fundamental to us. Space exploration is really one of the oldest and most fundamental of the human sciences. Just think about it. We plant based on sun cycles. That's how we were able to get our civilizations to move forward. We navigate using the stars, very old fundamental things that came from observing the sky. And in order to get a handle on climate change, we are really very much beholden to space exploration and looking at the sky and those observations right now. Space exploration can be argued that it has done incredible work on climate change, both in the idea of realizing what's going on, right? We first had recognized ozone layers. We're able to look at and understand and see things about sea surface change, even being able to create monitoring tools. We do that, and well as being able to create tools like solar cells that are better. All of these things help us. Space exploration is incredible for its ability to be able to do that. But here's the thing. People frequently ask me, what did I see in space? And what makes a difference in terms of space exploration? Well, I can tell you that space exploration is really incredible because it provides all this compelling evidence that we need to do things, right? But when I looked at space, I saw this thin shimmering layer of blue light that's our atmosphere. And this thin shimmering layer of blue light that's our atmosphere, it makes the Earth sparkle from within. And I remember looking at the stars, and I looked back down at my home planet, and it confirmed something I always believed. You know how people say, save the Earth? They're mistaken. The Earth will be here, this incredible planet that warms us and cools us and envelops us with all kinds of smells, sounds, vistas. It will be here. The issue really is whether or not we'll be here. You see, we have to really put this in perspective. And that perspective is that we impact this planet. And we've done that. And yet at the same time, where I can guarantee you that I would go to another planet at the drop of a hat, space is not a plan B for this planet. For generations to come, the vast majority of us will be living right here. So we have to figure this out. In fact, there's a sense of urgency to this. An African proverb says, if you wait for tomorrow, tomorrow comes. If you don't wait for tomorrow, tomorrow comes. It's happening no matter what. And so, as we're here today, and these past days, we've had this sense of urgency that we really have to do things. And while I love the idea about space technologies, and they really have been formidable in helping us to understand climate change, helping us to counteract it, helping us to monitor what's going on, and all of the commitments that people have made here today, whether we talk about policies that we're putting in place, whether we talk about things like financial systems, all the technologies that come into place, it's really remarkable. But I have something else to tell you, right? There's a wicked truth about all of this. It doesn't really matter. None of those technologies, none of those policies will matter unless we deal with something else, which is us, people inside. Helen Keller said, "Science has found no remedy for the worst evil of them all, the apathy of humans." And that is fundamental to what we have to do. Our technologies are incredible. And actually, we have enough tools right now. We know enough. We don't need another piece of information, really, to address this, except for we haven't incorporated into ourselves what we need to do. Folks ask me, what was I feeling when I looked down at this planet? My knowledge was, and the most important thing, is that we are earthlings. So as we have these sufficient tools to do what we need, we have to understand that there's something else going on. Our stumbling block is insufficient, deep appreciation of our connections across space and time, and the fact that we are earthlings. That is the most fundamental piece that I had when I was in space. Not that I couldn't go anywhere else, because you see, we're made of the stuff of stars. Inside of our heart are the heart of stars, the heavy minerals. We are part of this universe. We're very much a part of it, but we are also earthlings. We're inextricably connected. And to thrive into the future, our commitments and caring must endure across generations and geographies. It can't just be about my small part of the country. I have to understand that we share this planet. That is it, and we are not going to be able to survive unless we have that commitment that doesn't stop with me, it doesn't stop with you, it doesn't stop at the shores. We have to be connected across space and time. And so, if we understand that we're inextricably connected to this planet, that means that it's not about saving the Earth, it's not about saving it someplace else. We have to think differently. And so that's where I think space exploration can really help us. We go back to that African proverb that says, "No one shows a child the sky." I bring that up because my commitment has been to try to get us to think about the world as a whole. All the work that I've done as I've left NASA always had some part of sharing and inclusion in it, from science literacy campaigns to work on 100-Year Starship. And what we're doing now is really asking people to look up, because looking up is really a reality check, right? Because it grounds us and it liberates us at the same time. It helps us to understand the immensity of our role in the universe. Some people say they feel smaller when they look up. When I looked out in space, I felt larger because I knew that I was a part of this universe as much of any speck of stardust. We are made of the same thing. When we look up the sky above us, I believe it connects us, it compels us. No wall can be built high enough to stop the exchange of energy across this planet, that is our weather. And we can make all the stars disappear from our sight because of smog and pollution, but they are still pushing and pulling our planet and our galaxy, and we're connected to the planet, to the Earth, and each other. So again, I ask you, when was the last time you looked up? And I'm going to ask you if you could participate in a project with us calling Look Up, where around the world for 24 hours, we look up, we think about what it makes us feel, our hopes, our dreams, our connections, what we want to offer, what we plan to offer. The idea is to look up and assume and take pictures, images, text, and snapshots of what we'll do. We will create a tapestry of these images that people have, and we'll be able to generate that tapestry. My slides aren't going forward, but I want to assure you that what was going to happen behind them, you'd see images of India, you'd see images of Mount Kilimanjaro, of New York City, of other places, with the idea, wherever we are connected by the sky. We're connected by this universe that we're in. And so I would ask you to pledge to look up with me around the world in October, and we'll release the date, but in October. And let's create a tapestry, because if we go back to where we came from, which is part of this universe, perhaps we can share this commitment that we are connected, and all of the work that we're doing will have a way of going forward into the future. Thank you so much.
All right. right, so you warmed up because our next speaker is a force of nature himself. He's worked his whole life on behalf of our shared planet, our shared home. Please welcome the co-founder of Generation Investment Management, the chair of the Climate Reality Project, a critical voice who has spent decades driving the movement against climate change, the 45th Vice, or maybe President of the United States, Al Gore!
Thank you very much. Thank you. I so appreciate that warm welcome. And Jennifer Granholm, thank you very much for your warm and enthusiastic introduction. And thanks to each and every one of you for coming to be a part of this Global Climate Action Summit. It is already a magnificent success because the commitments that have already been announced have added momentum to this global movement, and more are coming today. And I want to thank Governor Jerry Brown for organizing this conference and doing such a fantastic job. Wow. And on a personal point, I would like to honor the memory of a wonderful woman who was Jerry Brown's chief of staff. She died last March 21st, but she put her heart and soul into the vision for this conference, Nancy McFadden, and I want to honor her memory here. The other co-sponsors, I want to thank Mike Bloomberg, who's been doing just amazing things and is so committed and effective. Zhizhenhua, one of my personal heroes who has driven this movement in China and around the world. Patricia Espinosa, who's heading up the UN climate group and building on the wonderful work of Christiana Figueres, and Patricia is doing fantastic. Anand Mahindra from India, and Jayatha Wikramanayake, representing the young people of the world. These co-sponsors have done a wonderful job. So I only have a few minutes, and I feel a little bit like the old joke that everything's been said, but not everyone has had a chance to say it. But I just want to cover 3 points and end on the most important one. The first question, which a few in the world are still wrestling with, is do we really have to change? We get 80% of our energy from carbon fuels. Looks like it might be a hassle to really convert. And of course, the answer, as Jennifer said, this is the first time in history that 2 major storms are making landfall from the Atlantic and the Pacific simultaneously. And each recalls some of their predecessors. Florence, Hurricane Florence, is similar to Hurricane Harvey in the sense that the disruption of the Northern Hemisphere jet stream, which the scientists can explain and I can't, but it's for real. That's what's keeping these storms in the same place so that they drop so much water. Where Super Typhoon Mangkhut is concerned, it recalls Super Typhoon Haiyan, which created 4 million climate refugees. And even without the cyclonic storms, we are putting so much heat into the oceans. You know, we're using the sky as an open sewer. This is literally insane. We put 110 million tons of man-made heat-trapping pollution up there every day, including today. The cumulative amount now traps as much extra heat energy as would be released by 400,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs going off every single day. And it's a big planet, but that's a lot of energy. And that's why the temperatures are going up every year. Thousands of high temperature records have been broken this year. And heat stress is one of the many health consequences. But more than 90% of that heat goes into the oceans, and it's disrupting the water cycle that the water cycle that is at the base of life on this planet. And it's putting so much more moisture into the atmosphere that we get these rain bombs. And that's why we have these floods and mudslides on a regular basis. The same extra heat is drying out the land and creating these droughts. That's why Cape Town almost ran out of water last year. That's why the southwestern United States is in drought, the Korean Peninsula, Mongolia, Southeast Asia. This is happening all over the world. That's why the fires are raging. We're less than 1 month away from the largest fire in the history of this state of California that had a fire tornado with wind speeds as fierce and fast as the wind speeds in these cyclonic storms. 129 million trees dead in California, which means the risk of more fires is there. Every night on the television news is like a nature hike through the book of Revelation, and we've got to connect the dots between the cause and the effect. And we're seeing refugees. You know, you can deny, some people evidently can still deny the reality. It's a little bit harder to deny the 3,000 deaths in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Maria last year. Come on! How far down that rabbit hole are people gonna follow? This is utter insanity. We have to wake up. We are alive in this moment. We are awake. We have to take action. So the answer to the question, do we have to change, is obviously yes. The tropical diseases moving north, the refugees that are fleeing these areas that are becoming in danger of becoming literally unlivable, uninhabitable, yes, we have to change. The good news is we can change, and you've heard from so many here that we have a relief that is literally heaven sent from the sun and from the winds, and the cheapness of this electricity from renewable sources is now making it not only competitive, but in most geographies, cheaper than electricity from fossil fuels. And now the batteries are getting better, and the electric vehicles are already better. And the efficiency improvements, they don't get as much attention, but let me tell you this. Our world is in the early stages of a sustainability revolution that's built on the new digital tools of the Internet of Things and machine learning and artificial intelligence, and it's giving executive teams the ability to manage electrons and atoms and molecules with the same precision the IT companies have used in managing bits of information. And this sustainability revolution is sweeping the globe. It has the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution and the speed of the digital revolution. We can do this. We've decoupled emissions from economic prosperity. California has led the way, as is so often the case. We have the tools we need. We can solve this crisis. So that only leaves the final question, will we change? And that's what this Global Climate Action Summit is all about. Do we as human beings have the inherent capacity to rise above our limitations and expand our moral imagination to grasp the true dangers that we face and the size of the magnificent opportunities that we are now confronting, and really do our duty not only for future generations but for those alive today? And let's also always remember that it is the poor and the disadvantaged and those who suffer discrimination who are the first victims of this climate crisis. But all of us are in the line of fire. The Paris Agreement, do not forget the significance of this, because it has pointed the way to a world that is united in taking action. All 195 nations of the world are committed. And yes, I know Donald Trump made a speech, and most of you know that under the law, and we are still in the United States a nation under law as of right now, and we will continue to be. And under the law, the first day the U.S. could legally withdraw is the first day after the next presidential election. And by the way, if there is a new president, excuse me for a moment, then a new president could simply give 30 days notice and we're right back in the Paris Agreement. There was a great economist named Rudy Dornbush who once said, things take longer to happen than you think they will, but then they happen much faster than you thought they could. And every great moral revolution that has improved the condition of humanity has met with fierce resistance until we reached a critical mass of women and men who were sharing the same conviction that we have to choose between right and wrong. And that is the essential choice here. We are seeing businesses lead the way. We are seeing investors lead the way. We're seeing cities and counties and all kinds of civic organizations leading the way. We must do it. We can do it. I'm convinced ever more because of the success of this summit here in San Francisco that we will do it. And I'll just close with this reminder. For anyone who doubts that we as human beings have the political will to meet our obligations that history is demanding of us, just remember that political will is itself a renewable resource. Thank you for renewing it. Thank you.
Al Gore on fire. That was awesome. Woo! So, the future depends on us. The stakes couldn't be higher. I am totally inspired by the commitments that you're going to hear today. So the people that you're about to meet on this stage here are acting with tenacity and boldness and determination despite what's not happening in Washington. They are driving a transportation revolution. They're investing in public transit. They're investing in electric vehicles. They're installing the panels. They're erecting the turbines. They're wiring the grid of tomorrow. They're protecting our forests, our lands, our oceans. They're growing our food more sustainably. They're investing big in the world that we want to leave our children. And they are forging a path toward the most ambitious and important goal of all, what science demands of us to avoid the most dangerous impacts of climate change. This goal, carbon neutrality by mid-century. And it takes real courage to challenge the status quo like that, which brings me to our next speaker. He is the mayor of one of the largest metropolitan economies in the world. He's the leader of a city where the streets themselves are celebrities. He has had the courage to commit to making his city carbon neutral by 2050. Please welcome the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you, Jennifer Granholm. Give her a round of applause and thank her for her leadership. I don't know about you, but they said in the Old Testament you either had to be a pastor or a prophet to help console people or tell them the future. I just heard with Al Gore, a man who is both our pastor and our prophet, and I am fired up. Let's give him another round of applause and thank him. I'm so excited to be here, wearing 3 hats. One is the mayor of a great city that is the 3rd largest metropolitan economy in the world today. After Tokyo and New York, Los Angeles, about a $1 trillion economy, is leading the way of showing that we can have jobs and a better earth at the same time. Second, as co-founder and chair of Climate Mayors, that group, bipartisan group of brave local leaders across America that are saying, this is in our hands. And last summer, when our president said he was withdrawing from Paris, we said, if you're out, we're in. And today, 407 cities and 47 states, representing 70 million Americans, have taken the Paris Pledge, and we are implementing it even if Washington won't. And third, I want to give a shout out to my global mayors and C40 as one of the vice chairs of C40, which is laying down the foundation of how we will, from Accra, Ghana, from Dhaka, Bangladesh, in China, in South America, here in North America, how every single mega city, now representing over 165 million folks, a quarter of the world GDP, have signed on as well to say we will be the difference. Change is happening at tremendous pace. But you see, to borrow a phrase, when we see national leaders in our country not willing to do the work, to quote the song, cities are doing it for themselves. And we're doing it for ourselves because we are the ones who cannot deny reality. We are the ones who lose firefighters on the fire line. We are the ones, like Sylvester Turner, building a great city in Houston in the face of 4 extreme weather events in just 10 years. Cities and states and national governments with NGOs, with the private sector, are showing what we can do. And today I've been asked to talk a little bit about the transportation sector. Now, Los Angeles is #1 in so many ways, but we're also #1 in traffic, a crown I hope to lose. We may be known as the car capital of the world, but we are much more than cars that are stuck in gridlock. Another picture of Los Angeles is captured in a beautiful picture of our transit map, because in 2016, the same night that this country voted for president, we passed the largest transit initiative in American history ×2 to build 15 new transit lines in a single American city at the same time while getting ready for bringing the Olympics in 2028. And we are planning along those lines to make sure that people aren't displaced and affordable housing can be built along the stations that people will use to get out of their cars and get to work. You see, this isn't just about statistics. This is about people, about tucking your child into bed, about the radius that you draw on your own city map for your dating pool, about whether or not you can go and see a beautiful song at a concert or not. We come to cities to preserve life, as Aristotle once said, but they exist for the good life. And so transportation is about that good life, and this work is being driven, of course, forward by electric vehicles. Let me talk about that for one moment. We learned yesterday the ZEV Challenge has taken off, and here at this summit, we have 62 commitments to shift to 100% zero-emission vehicle fleets, including 24 global CEOs, governors, premiers, and mayors who signed on this week alone. And LA is leading that charge, with the largest EV market in America, the most EVs in a municipal fleet, the most chargers on the street, 2,500 and counting, on our way to 25,000 electric vehicle chargers on the streets of Los Angeles. And thanks to all of you, our state and private sector partners were also home to Blue LA, an EV car share program that started in our poorest communities first, because this shouldn't just be for high-income individuals. Collaboration is essential. It is collaboration where we find solutions, where we roll out the new development of new technologies, and where we show the demand for zero-emission vehicles. That's why LA was one of the very first cities to sign on to the C40 Fossil Fuel-Free Streets Declaration last fall. And we're pledging to buy only zero-emission buses by 2025, and by the time the Olympics come, I think 100% of our buses will be electric in the city of Los Angeles. Today, the number of cities that have signed on to this map has more than doubled to 26, including those that joined this week. I'd say that the demand for over 80,000 zero-emission buses is a hell of a signal to the marketplace. So if you build it, we will drive. If you build it, we will ride. So build them. And our pledge means that 140 million people from Milan to Mexico City, from LA to London, will benefit from cleaner air, less congestion, and a shorter commute. Climate mayors, as well, is also accelerating change. And we're so pleased to share with you that this week, we launched a brand new portal to help power and lower the costs of EVs. If your city hasn't signed up yet, call your mayor and let them know that already 20 cities and 2 counties just in the last 3 days have committed to hundreds of EV purchases, not in the future, this year. And we're just getting started. The mayor of Houston said after Harvey came, they didn't have enough money to replace the electric vehicles that were lost. And then he said he showed to his fleet director this new portal, and he said, with prices this low, we can't say no. So with prices this low, you can't say no where you live. Make sure that your city is signed up as well. And these goals of cleaner air and a stronger economy are not only related, they're interconnected. In Los Angeles, we hit our greenhouse gas emissions, the last year that we've measured. We reduced in 2016 by 11% in a 12-month period, while our unemployment rate went down 14%. At the Port of Los Angeles, we've met our clean air targets 5 years ahead of schedule, and with my brother Mayor Robert Garcia in Long Beach, we have made the first pledge of any mayors anywhere on the face of this planet for zero-emission ports by 2035, to come in and say 100% of all the operations in LA and Long Beach, where 43% of all the goods come into this country, we will be zero emissions. So now we are doubling down. My friends, it is time for us to make sure that we see the future before us. And in conclusion, I've been reading a poem by Robert Browning lately, in which there's a beautiful line that says that our reach must always exceed our grasp. Isn't that what we're here doing? Our reach must always exceed our grasp. We do things we might not be able to recognize or to realize in our lifetimes, but we do it because for this work to be successful, our reach must always exceed our grasp, or as the poem says, what else is heaven for? My friends, the work in this summit, the work of our lives, the work to have leadership at every level to change this is us reaching beyond our grasp, or after all, what is this beautiful earth for? We can and we will do it. Don't cede the power that you have. Demand that your local leaders step up, and when your national leaders aren't there, let's just make them a footnote of history. Thank you so much.
And now, to share important climate commitments from the rapidly changing transportation sector, please welcome executives from ChargePoint, Eveybox, Hyundai Motor Company, and Électricité de France.
Hello, my name is Pasquale Romano, and I'm president and CEO of ChargePoint, the world's leading electric vehicle charging network. About 130 years ago, the advent of the internal combustion engine was upon us. We have been living with that technology for a very long time. And the technologies supporting electric mobility are very new. The electrification of mobility taking place today is as fundamental a change as the internal combustion engine was 130 years ago. And while much of this technology was conceived right here in California, companies like ours are proving that electric mobility is viable in every corner of the world. All of us at ChargePoint are so convinced of this transformation that I am here to share our commitment to lead this charge. The world of mobility is on the cusp of a generational change. Vehicles of every type have not only been electrified, but have been made available to the mass market, and even more models are coming. Electric cars for personal use, electric buses for mass transit, electric trucks for the movement of goods. Every day, more drivers, more businesses, more fleets, and more governments are making the decision to go electric. ChargePoint empowers businesses to participate in the fueling network of the future. Over the last 11 years, we have built a network of thousands of businesses that collectively provide the infrastructure for electric vehicles, one parking space at a time. And while this effort seems daunting in totality, it's achievable when individual businesses get involved. On the back of building great businesses, this massive shift in mobility will help the world's citizens avoid the emission of millions of tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And that's why today, ChargePoint commits to 2.5 million commercial places to charge your car by 2025. That's a 50-fold increase relative to the scale of our network today. What's behind this number? A commitment to continue innovating for a cleaner world and the support of an incredible global team of employees and an impressive group of investors that have dedicated $300 million to develop the technologies that underpin this revolution. And we hope to inspire others to stand with us. ChargePoint has had this conviction for more than a decade. We have proven that the electrification of transportation can be democratized. And it is essential that all of us participate. So, here's how you do your part. Governments, set those bold agendas. States, follow California's lead. Energy sector, use your scale to make this available to everybody. Businesses, electrify your parking lots. And drivers, just drive a better way. The time is right now for all of this, and I thank you very much.
Great announcement from Pat. This is fantastic news for our industry, but especially for the climate. My name is Christophe Verrienoege. I'm the CEO of Eveybox. We are the leading global provider of electric vehicle charging solutions with over 60,000 of charging stations across 45 countries today. Here in California, we are working with local utilities such as PG&E to actually bring charging stations to disadvantaged communities. Around the world, we are working with local entrepreneurs, businesses, and governments to drive the transition towards electric mobility. It's an exciting time to be part of this great movement. It took actually 60 months for the first 1 million electric vehicles to find a buyer. The next 1 million only took 17 months, and the next one, 10 months. And it's actually the 5 million mark of electric vehicles is predicted to arrive only 6 months from now. Experts around the world are believing that by 2025, we'll be reaching over 30 million electric vehicles. So we arrived at the tipping point, a true tipping point, and this is why Eveybox as a company is here today to announce our commitment to build at least 1 million electric vehicle charging stations, both regular and fast charging, by 2025. And we feel comfortable that we will go beyond and above that. We're proud to make this commitment, alongside other great commitments that we heard today. And together, all together, we can make this happen. We can electrify the world, we can increase zero-emission transport, and we can create a safer and healthier future for all of us. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Benoît Potier, and I'm the CEO and Chairman of Air Liquide. I'm here today with my colleague, Dr. Won-Chul Yang, Vice Chairman of Hyundai. Together, we co-lead a group of more than 50 CEOs from some of the largest energy, transport, and industry companies around the world.
The Hydrogen Council is the largest global industry-led effort seeking to develop the hydrogen economy. The Council is constantly advocating that innovative hydrogen technologies have made great progress in realizing a carbon-free energy society. We believe hydrogen technology can and will play a key role in the energy transition, from heating our homes to fueling our factories, and to powering our vehicles. Our vision is clear. By 2050, hydrogen could meet 18% of the world's final energy demand, provide 30 million jobs around the world, and prevent 6 gigatons of CO2 emissions, which is more than the entire carbon emissions of the United States in 2017.
Today, representing the Hydrogen Council and the CEOs within our coalition, I'm proud to announce our new commitment to a goal of decarbonizing 100% of hydrogen fuel used in transport by 2030. We are therefore calling on governments to build a global alliance and the regulatory frameworks to make this commitment a reality. Transport may be our first target, but with the right level of support, we will see positive effects across many sectors.
It's an honor to stand here today alongside such an inspiring group of leaders, all dedicated to the same cause, global climate action. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm John Bernard Levy. I'm the chairman and CEO of EDF, large electricity, energy provider in Europe and in many countries in the world, including this one. And in my business, shooting for the moon is storing electricity at scale. I believe electricity must become a massively storable commodity if we want to achieve our carbon neutrality objectives. I believe we can make storage at scale affordable, not just for transportation, but also for the utilities that can power the broader transformation of our economies. At EDF, we have a plan to become a leader in electricity storage. We will give it a shot. Today, I am excited to announce that we will invest $8 billion over the next 10 to 15 years to make electricity a cheap, carbon-free, storable commodity. The strategic direction at EDF is set until 2030, and this direction anchors nuclear and renewables as our two pillars of this future. Since our nuclear fleet is already flexible, we operate between 20% and 100% of the maximum capacity of each unit, and this is unique in the world. Then we are well positioned to incorporate more renewable energy in the grid. Demand-side management is a core element to the electricity business in the future. We know that consumers have enormous potential to bring information and flexibility to the power grid. And in this picture, storage will be the cornerstone, the game changer for our business. Let's walk the talk. We are already a champion of carbon-free electricity production. At 82 grams per kilowatt hour, we have among the lowest emissions of any major electricity producer in the world. We will push that number even more, using storage, hydrogen, and an ambitious program for solar power. Just in France, we will develop, in the next 15 years, 30 gigawatts of solar power. We will also commit to EV100. This is the Climate Group's initiative. By 2030, we will have our entire car fleet transformed into electric vehicles. Taken together, these actions will help us achieve our public objective to lower our carbon emissions, 51 million tons today, 30 million tons by 2030. And they will put us on the path towards collectively reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. Thank you.
Okay, round two. To realize our boldest ambitions, we have to engage everybody. And now we're going to hear from people who are building support for climate action from the top down and, importantly, from the bottom up. These are people who are running cities and nations. They're supporting the innovators who are developing climate solutions in their garages. They're providing free legal services for entrepreneurs. They're working to elect leaders who will fix this problem. I am thrilled to welcome one of those leaders now, who is the mayor of Carmel, Indiana, James Brainerd, along with fellow members of the We Are Still In coalition. Come on up.
Thanks. Good morning. I'm a Republican mayor in Carmel, Indiana, a suburb of Indianapolis of about 100,000 people. And as I talk to some of my younger Republican colleagues, I like to point out it was Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, who set aside most of our national park land. It was President Ike Eisenhower, a Republican, who set aside the Arctic Reserve. And it was Nixon and Ford who put together the EPA, our first federal regulatory agency to protect the environment, as well as signed the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Drinking Act, the Migratory Bird Act, and so on. The list goes on. And it was Ronald Reagan, a Republican, of course, who went to Montreal to deal with the ozone hole. And we have this history. And I point out to these younger colleagues that there's no Democratic or Republican way to fill chuck holes or plow snow, and climate should be nonpartisan because our planet demands it. Thank you. I have yet to meet a Democrat or a Republican who doesn't want his family or her family to drink clean water and breathe clean air. And I have yet to meet a Democrat or Republican who doesn't want to leave the earth in good shape for our children and grandchildren. And conservatives should take the scientists seriously. Not to do so is reckless and risky, and those are not conservative values. And mayors, some of the elected officials, and city council members of both major parties have been working on this issue for decades because we're the closest level of government to our constituents, and we know that our constituents are concerned about our climate. In fact, there's evidence of this by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. There's about 1,250 cities, over 30,000 in population in the United States, and they represent about 85% of our country's population. Almost all of these mayors, except for 4 or 5, over 1,240 of them, have signed the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Agreement, setting goals to improve the climate in their cities, and they've been working on this for over a decade. And this is because people in our cities, regardless of party affiliation, care about our environment. The president likes to talk about being a great country. Well, this is what I think. Great countries honor their international agreements. Great countries show leadership. Great countries show leadership to the rest of the world on critical issues. Great countries listen to their scientists, and great countries implement policies to leave our planet in better condition than we found it. So, Regardless of Washington, the people of our country will keep the promises made in Paris by doing what it takes at the local and state level. I'm proud of what my fellow mayors have accomplished to tackle climate, but I stand here on behalf now of 3,500 signatories to We Are Still In, the largest U.S. coalition in support of climate action ever. And for this summit, more than 500, just this week, brought forward new commitments and ongoing action to tackle climate in their communities, supply chains, operations, and organization. The people of the United States care about our climate, and because of that, we are still in, and we're taking action. I'd like to ask those in the room today who are part of We're Still In to stand and be recognized. Stand up. We will keep our obligations made in Paris, and we will succeed. Thank you.
Please welcome the President of the Republic of Hungary, János Áder.
Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim! Let me use my mother tongue. Amikor Kalifornia kormányzója, Jerry Brown úr meghívott minket erre a találkozóra, világossá tette a meghívásában, hogy csak azért ne jöjjön senki San Franciscóba, hogy egy újabb lelkesítő, vagy az elkötelezettségét tükröző beszédet mondjon. Arra kért mindannyiunkat, hogy a hátizsákunkban legyenek konkrét vállalások is. Ráadásul Jerry Brown magasra tette a mércét, hiszen az elmúlt napokban meghozott döntéseivel, mind a két döntést nyilvánvalóan ismerik, 2045-re a kaliforniai áramtermelés 100%-ban széndioxidmentes lesz, és ugyancsak erre az időpontra, 2045-re a teljes kaliforniai gazdaság dekarbonizációja megtörténik. Ezzel a döntéssel vár bennünket Kalifornia kormányzója. Az elmúlt napokban a bevezető kisfilmben is láthatták, és akik itt voltak végig, azok szemtanúi lehettek ennek. Sokan és sokféleképpen beszéltek a klímaváltozás ránk leselkedő veszélyeiről. Ha az itt elhangzottak, az előttem szólók gondolatait egy mondatba kéne összefoglalni, és arra a kérdésre kéne válaszolni, hogy mi az üzenete ennek a mostani klímakonferenciának, akkor ez az üzenet egy mondatban számomra így hangzik: ma már nem a Föld atmoszférája a kérdés, hogy mi történik vele, hanem civilizációnk jövője a tét. És azt gondolom, hogy ezt az üzenetet érdemes elvinnünk majd a következő klímakonferenciára, Katowicébe is. És most lássuk Magyarországot. Magyarország Európa szívében egy kicsi ország, 10 milliós ország, több mint 1000 éves történelemmel, és nyilván a kibocsátás szempontjából sem az Egyesült Államokhoz, sem Kínához nem mérhető. Mégis azon 21 ország közé tartozik a világban, ahol 1990 óta úgy nőtt a GDP 50%-kal, hogy közben az energiafelhasználás 15%-kal csökkent, és az üvegházhatású gázok kibocsátása is 32%-kal csökkent. Ez a múlt. Beszéljünk a jövőről. A magyar kormány elfogadta már a Nemzeti Éghajlat Stratégiát, amiben az egyik legfontosabb cél, ez egy hosszú 200 oldalas dokumentum, de a legfontosabb célkitűzése, hogy 1990-hez viszonyítva 2050-re 85%-kal csökkenti Magyarország az üvegházhatású gázoknak a kibocsátását. 85%-kal. És van egy másik vállalásunk, egy másik célunk is, és ráadásul rövidebb időtartamra, 2030-ra vonatkozik ez a célkitűzés. Ez pedig úgy szól, hogy a magyarországi áramtermelés 90-95%-a szén-dioxidmentes lesz. Ezt atomenergia révén, illetve a napenergia révén kívánjuk elérni. Párizs lendülete megtört. Ezt nyugodtan mondhatjuk. A mögöttünk lévő tanácskozások, akár Marrakest nézzük, akár a legutóbbi múlt héten vagy a héten befejeződött tanácskozást, nyugodtan mondhatjuk, hogy Párizs lendületét a szubnacionális szervezetek tudják fenntartani, és tudták fenntartani az elmúlt 2,5-3 évben. Ezért is javasoltam, és jó szívvel támogattam azt, hogy elsőként, közel 3 évvel ezelőtt Magyarország fővárosa, Budapest csatlakozzon az Under 2 mozgalomhoz, és most 2 nappal ezelőtt másik 23 város csatlakozott ehhez a mozgalomhoz. Ezek a kis zöld pontok, ezeket a magyar városokat jelölik, az a nagy pont, az Magyarország főváros, az a nagy zöld pötty. Jól láthatják ezen az ábrán, hogy ezek a települések Magyarország népességének körülbelül 40%-át képviselik. És egyébként zárójelben hadd tegyem hozzá, hogy még amikor készültünk a párizsi klímacsúcsra, akkor javasoltam az ENSZ főtitkárának, hogy a szubnacionális szervezetek, többek között az Under 2 mozgalom lehessen részese a párizsi megállapodásnak, hanem akkor Párizsban, akkor később csatlakozhasson hozzá. Hát úgy látszik, hogy az ENSZ malmai kicsit lassan őrölnek, mert bár a főtitkár, az ENSZ főtitkára ezt a javaslatot elfogadta, de még mind a mai napig ez sajnos nem történt meg, de remélem, hogy a jövőben ez megtörténhet, és párizsi megállapodáshoz csatlakozó félként köszönhetjük majd hamarosan az Under 2 mozgalmat is. Mi az, ami még a puttonyban van? Mi az, ami még a hátizsákban van? 2 magyar találmányról szeretném önöket tájékoztatni. Mind a 2 érinthet minket úgy is, mint fogyasztókat, és érinthet minket úgy is, hogyha mezőgazdasággal foglalkozunk, mint mezőgazdasági termelőket. A jelenlévők, a teremben lévők nyilván pontosan tudják, hogy a teljes szén-dioxid kibocsátás vagy üvegházhatásgáz kibocsátásnak a 17%-áért a mezőgazdaság felelős, és ennek is a nagy része az állattartáshoz kötődik. 20 éves kutatómunka eredménye egy magyar találmány, ami a kérődző állatok esetében 80%-kal tudja csökkenteni a metán kibocsátást úgy, hogy a hús és a tej minősége még javul is. A másik, amit szeretnék az önök figyelmébe ajánlani, szintén egy magyar találmány. Vízfelhasználásunknak a 70%-a kötődik a mezőgazdasághoz. Nyugodtan mondhatjuk, hogy minden csepp számít. A 21. század kérdése: kevesebb vízből, kevesebb egyfőre eső vízből, egyre kisebb területen, egyre több ember számára kell az élelmiszert megtermelni. A magyar találmány egy olyan környezetbarát szer, ami a talaj-víz megtartó képességét javítja, méghozzá akár 40-50% mértékben, ezáltal csökkenti az aszálykárokat, és ráadásul a környezetet sem károsítja. Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim! A cselekvésre az időnk egyre kevesebb, a felelősségünk viszont az idő előre haladtával egyre nő. Megköszönve megtisztelő figyelmüket, Mark Twain gondolatával szeretnék búcsúzni önöktől, aki azt mondta, hogy 20 év múlva jobban fogod sajnálni azokat a dolgokat, amiket nem tettél meg, mint azokat, amiket megtettél. Köszönöm meg.
Hi, my name is Karen Caudillo, and I grew up in Naples, Florida. When I think of my childhood, I think of the Everglades, and currently we aren't doing enough to change course and to save the third largest aquifer in the world. As a DACA recipient, I encourage my fellow peers to cast a ballot for environmental justice. And now, I'm excited to introduce Tom Steyer, our founder, to tell you more about our great work.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and president of Next Gen America, Tom Steyer.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming to this summit and re-emphasizing our need to preserve our planet. And thanks to the organizers for this opportunity to speak about the youth uprising we're seeing in the United States this year. Our youth organization, Next Gen Rising, is 700 people spread across 11 states with 5,000 volunteers working towards one goal: breaking the corporate stranglehold on our democracy. Year after year, companies use their money and their lobbyists to control the basic functions of government, especially oil and gas companies. With their money, they can buy the influence to pollute our air, to foul our water, and to destabilize our climate. But America is supposed to be a democracy of, by, and for the people. So it's time to give the power back to the citizens. By the way, when it comes to climate change, about 2/3 of Americans actually want the government to do more. But Republican legislators across this country don't care. So if we want actual change, we need to win elections. And that means we need to mobilize a broad voting coalition, not just environmentalists, but labor, social justice groups, community groups, and more. That's how California passed our commitment to 100% clean energy this week, and our bill blocking offshore drilling, both of which NextGen championed. Those bills made it through the legislature with great leadership from the poorest parts of our state, specifically by Kevin DeLeon, the president of the state Senate. Kevin has provided that same great leadership for years, and I want to thank him for that and for his dedication to our shared cause. But California is not the only place where that coalition wins. At the beginning of this year, we joined with local partners in Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada to introduce ballot initiatives on clean energy. We've already negotiated a deal with Michigan's utilities with the support of labor, business, and community groups. They've agreed to 50% clean energy by 2030. But Arizona's corrupt monopoly utility, Arizona Public Service, is pouring millions of dollars into false ads, fake protesters, lobbyists, and lawsuits to fight us. In November, Arizonans, like Americans everywhere, will have a chance to prove that voters can beat dollars. And we believe this all starts with young Americans. 18 to 35-year-olds form the largest voting bloc in America. And it's the most diverse generation in American history. But they vote at roughly half the rate of their parents' generation. Our goal is simple: to mobilize over 500,000 young people to vote come Election Day. They are progressive, they care about climate action, and they can change the equation on energy just like they can change everything. And they will. For one thing, they've learned that not voting can have dire consequences. And when they start voting in real numbers, the system starts working again. In Virginia last year, we got over 20,000 young people to register to vote. Youth turnout went up by 1/3, and clean energy candidates won their elections. Today, Virginia is investing in solar and implementing carbon pollution regulations. We're seeing the same success this year, only more so. Almost 3 times as many people under 35 voted in California's primaries this year as did 4 years ago. 3 times. Same story in Michigan, 3 times. And thanks to Karen and the rest of the Next Gen Florida team, the Florida Democratic primary saw 5 times higher turnout around Florida State University and 10 times higher around the University of Florida. That's the headline. Young voters are showing up. Come November, they will change the balance of power in the United States of America. That means people beating money. That means restoring the broadest possible democracy. It means ending the hostile corporate takeover of America. It means climate justice. It means environmental justice. It means justice. Thank you very much.
And now to present the California Climate Cup, please welcome founder and managing director of CalCEF, Danny Kennedy, and president and CEO of the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, Matt Peterson.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're here to present the winner of the California Climate Cup, and we're excited to tell you about how we started this. But first, earlier this week, the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, along with all of our partners and the Air Resources Board and others, announced an ambitious goal to get to zero emissions by 2028. So while we know we got a long way to get there, our goal is to help the region advance transportation electrification by getting further faster and setting a goal of 25% additional reductions by the time the Olympics arrive in Los Angeles. And we know from that we need innovation. And that's why we're here today to talk about the California Climate Cup and seeing how we can welcome entrepreneurs to present those innovative ideas so we can tackle climate change for all cities around the world.
That's right, and we should mention that downstairs there's an innovation showcase of companies from around the world, and we should also mention the Speedwell call to action, which over 400 companies and ecosystem organizations that support startups around the world to drive innovation and build equity is presented here to you all to call on you to get behind the innovation agenda, get behind the people, the entrepreneurs that are creating these companies, that are driving these solutions, and lifting all boats as we go. Really, the Speedwell idea is that we go faster and we make it fairer as we move towards the 100% that California has set as a goal and is really the goal we all should share. As for the California Climate Cup, so we did this business plan competition, put it out to the world, had over 100 submissions from many countries. We had 10 amazing finalists in Los Angeles on Monday that we listened to pitches and had a panel of esteemed judges choose 3 winners amongst for each of the categories of the cup. and then we have run them around town all week here at the Global Climate Action Summit, and also introduced them to venture capitalists and others so that they could take their businesses to the next level. And now, having sifted and sorted through the 3 winners who were Solstice Energy Solutions, Wheelie, and EV Match, we are going to announce the grand prize winner. We have the envelope. PricewaterhouseCoopers has done the calculations.
La La Land? No. Ladies and gentlemen, the grand prize winner, Uguay Mineo of Solstice Energy. This is the future right here, Uguay Mineo. Thank you.
Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uguay Mineo, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Solstice Energy Solutions. We're an energy technology company coming out of Stanford University that's developing IoT software and using big data to enable a transition to clean, connected, distributed energy landscapes, but starting in the cities and mega cities of emerging markets. I want to take this time to thank the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator and the California Seed Fund for really supporting entrepreneurs and innovators that are trying to solve the world's toughest energy and environmental challenges. If you're passionate about that and you want to join Solstice, you can visit us at www.solstice.io. Thank you.
Well done.
All right, make Earth cool again. Love those hats, Danny. That is excellent. I'm the former governor, but I'm the former Attorney General of Michigan also. So I know how important it is, this next commitment. I'm super excited because I get to make the announcement. So today, 9 of the United States' most respected law firms are partnering with Stanford Law, and together they're announcing this innovative collaboration to deliver free legal services worth $15 million by the end of 2020. They call themselves Lawyers for a Sustainable Economy. It's a first-of-its-kind effort to offer pro bono legal assistance to entrepreneurs and to community-based nonprofits tackling energy challenges in transportation, land use, clean energy, free legal services to entrepreneurs and NGOs. Yes, so I want you to welcome representatives from these great law firms. They're going to come up right now. Come on up. Cooley, Dentons, Hogan Lovell, Holland and Knight, Latham and Watkins, Morrison and Forrester, Sonsini, Goodrich and Rosati, and Arnold and Porter. This initiative is being launched in honor of the late, great Nancy McFadden. Obviously, she was a lawyer, former chief of staff to Governor Brown. Her vision and her dedication made this summit possible. So thank you, Nancy, for your commitment. And I am proud to introduce you to one of the innovators who's going to be benefiting from this initiative. Grist recently recognized her as one of the top 50 fixers, the people who are cooking up the boldest, most ambitious solutions to climate change. Please welcome Davida Herzl.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 92% of the world's population now breathes polluted air. It's a public health epidemic of unprecedented proportions. And in the places where the problem is most prevalent, we often have the least data about how to address it. I co-founded Acclima to change that, to deliver climate emissions and air quality data and insights worldwide at a block-by-block level. As a lawyer by training and a social entrepreneur by DNA, I understand the power of the legal system to help us launch new ventures, invent innovative technologies, and address the root of our sustainability challenges. The Lawyers for a Sustainable Economy initiative will accelerate those efforts to create a more resilient, sustainable, and equal world. Thanks to this initiative, we at Acclima are incredibly excited to work with Morrison & Foerster to expand our work. We're grateful for the opportunity that this initiative provides and hopeful about what it will help us achieve for human health and planetary health. Thank you. Thank you.
Droughts, heat waves, wildfires, superstorms are all deadly reminders of where we are right now.
The natural balance of our planet is changing.
And this is just the beginning.
We either come together and make climate change an urgent priority,
Or let chaos reign. Wind, solar, electric cars are among the big clean technologies of the future.
but they're not enough. We must do better.
1/3, that's the number you need to know.
1/3 of all carbon in the atmosphere can be reduced by a natural solution that's all around us.
It is a solution that starts with a single tree.
A single tree from the rainforests of Asia, the Amazon, the Congo,
A tree that helps a little girl breathe.
gives her water and offers animals shelter. A single tree can clean carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
And while one tree can't do it alone, a forest can.
Without forests,
There is no climate solution.
it's a solution that must not be forgotten.
With each second that passes, a forest is destroyed, and another, then another.
At the rate of a soccer field a second,
And in the blink of an eye, half the planet's forests are already gone. The destruction comes from the flick of a match,
the blade of a bulldozer.
businesses choosing their bottom line over what's best for the planet.
But it all can be stopped if we gather the courage to change our habits. We can decide to reuse existing lands to feed our planet instead of clearing forests for farming and ranching.
Companies can decide to use products from sources that are deforestation-free. We can decide to value and support indigenous peoples.
Because they are the best protectors of tropical forests.
We can decide to replant the forests that have been lost.
To make our planet whole again. And wealthier countries can decide to do more to help tropical forest nations conserve and protect their rainforests.
And each and every one of us can decide to elect leaders who make climate change a priority.
We might not be able to totally stop the clock on the effects of climate change.
But protecting forests will give us the time, the precious time we need.
To blanket our planet with solar, wind, and other clean energy solutions.
A natural solution is right here, right now, all around us.
We can make the difference.
1/3 of the difference.
That's a big number.
Because we have no time to lose.
Save the climate.
Save the earth.
Don't let forests be the forgotten solution.
Please welcome Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program, Eric Solheim.
Wow, how beautiful isn't this planet? Thanks so much to Alec, to Jane, to producer Jeff Horowitz, and to Years of Living Dangerously for this inspiring film. In this sequence, we will speak about the forgotten solution. What a single tree can achieve, and of course, much more so what we can achieve by protecting the beautiful forests and do tree planting and improve the quality of our lands. This is the forgotten solution. It's 30% of all we need to do for climate. Adding is protecting the gorillas and the orangutans on the beauties of the planet, and adding is critical for the economy of many nations. But we spend 3% of our money for what is 30% of the climate solution. So obviously we need to do a lot more for forests. It's affordable, it's doable, it's low-tech or high-tech, it's both, but we can do it. Sometimes people tell me it's very, very, very difficult to protect the forest. Then I suggest a one-word answer. And then one word is Brazil. Brazil is the biggest rainforest nation on the planet. Brazil has reduced its deforestation with 80% since 2004. And in the midst of the political crisis of Brazil, they keep the deforestation low. Yes, give a big hand to Brazil. It's a fantastic achievement. And obviously, if Brazil can do it, others can do exactly the same. One success of Brazil is empowering the indigenous peoples to protect their land. They're closest to it, they know it, and they can protect it. And that's why I'm so glad that we can now introduce two important indigenous peoples groups who will come up with announcement, not just talk, but announcement of what they will do from Indonesia and from Latin America. Let me start to introduce the Secretary General of the Indigenous Peoples Alliance of the Archipelago, from the beautiful island, I've been there, of Sulawesi in Indonesia, Mrs. Ruka Sumbolinggi.
Thank you. Affirmative action in practice. You give a little step for the small people. Good afternoon. I would like to first honor the Ohlone and Kosmiwak people whose ancestral land we are gathering on now. Indigenous peoples and government, we don't have great history together. But here, we are rewriting history. It hasn't been always easy. But earlier this week, we took a big step together. A global coalition of indigenous peoples, local communities, and subnational government, we agree on a guiding principles on collaborations. And it began with these two things. Let me read for you. We recognize and respect indigenous peoples and local communities' rights in relation to the land, territories, culture, self-determination, and governance. We recognize the historic contributions of indigenous peoples and local communities to the maintenance of forest stocks and environmental services those forests provide to society as a whole. Let me repeat this. We recognize and we respect. This is so important. So how did it happen? Well, the governor, Climate and Forest Task Force, finally, after 10 years, voted overwhelmingly on the guiding principles of collaborations with indigenous peoples and local communities. For beginning to implement these recognitions and respect by taking this very important step. We began the week with a big feast from Indonesian food, opportunity for learning and experiencing among each other, words of solidarity from the Amazon Basin, Mesoamerica, Africa, California, and elsewhere. I want to acknowledge my extended family here, my fellow guardian of the forest from Koika, AMPB, APIP, and my sisters and brothers from Aman and the Yurok tribe, and from our subnational governments, companioned. We sat together and enjoyed each other's company. Now that the new partnership is solidified, we need to take it into the next level. Now we need to do even harder and more important work. We need to take it off paper and make it reality. And that is our collective challenge and opportunity. We have the platform, we have the political will in all sides, and we need to continue moving forward together. Because the only way forward is to work together. To work together. And if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Pure sumanga, thank you very much. Terima kasih. Long live indigenous, long live local communities, long live local subnational governments, long live Mother Earth, long live all of us and our generations to come.
Thank you so much, Ruka. I think you understood from the applause how much you inspired all of us. Thank you so much. We can achieve everything if we work together. I would now like to welcome the indigenous leaders from Ecuador and Peru, who will announce the sacred headwaters of the Amazon Initiative, the origin of the Amazon Initiative, with remarks by Shoa leader of the Confederation of Indigenous Nations of the Ecuadorian Amazon, Tuntiak Katan. Please come.
Asimas Nua Aishman Hui Puhatirmin Amig Mahrume. Soy Tuntiak Catán, vengo de la Amazonía ecuatoriana. Estoy aquí junto a mis hermanos Achuar y Huitoto. Nosotros venimos de la Amazonía, de una región con alta biodiversidad del mundo. Venimos de territorios sagrados donde perviven más de 20 culturas en un área de más de 25 millones de hectáreas. Esos territorios sagrados, únicos en el mundo, donde viven los pueblos indígenas, contienen grandes cantidades de bosques que contribuyen a la mitigación del cambio climático global. Recuerden, hermanos y hermanas, para cumplir con las metas de Acuerdo de París, deben quedar bajo suelo las grandes reservas probadas de petróleo. En esas áreas donde nosotros vivimos, empieza la iniciativa de cuencas sagradas de Napo, Pastaza y Marañón, donde hay fuentes de agua, donde viven culturas, y esas fuentes de agua alimentan a toda la Amazonía y a todas las culturas que viven en Gran Amazonas. Por lo tanto, nosotros, los pueblos indígenas que vivimos en la Amazonía, proponemos esta iniciativa para que más de 4.5 millones de barriles de petróleo quede bajo tierra. También proponemos que más de 2 billones de toneladas de carbono que está en nuestros bosques deben mantenerse por iniciativas de conservación y preservación de esos bosques. Aquí unidos los pueblos indígenas de Perú y Ecuador, constituidos en la organización CONFEñAE y AIDESEP, invitamos a los gobiernos de Ecuador y de Perú que nos cooperen en esta iniciativa. También invitamos a la comunidad internacional que nos colaboren, que nos ayuden en esta iniciativa innovadora que es para el beneficio de los pueblos indígenas que vivimos en ese lugar y también para la humanidad. Hermanos y hermanas, el futuro de las generaciones depende de nuestras acciones y responsabilidades nuestras y debemos actuar ahora. Terminamos. Yumin Sarumui, muchas gracias con todos. Que viva la unidad.
Gracias, thank you so much. Listening to these very strong voices from Latin America and from Indonesia, I think we are all confident. Yes, we can make this planet great again. So thank you so much. I now have the great honor and privilege to introduce maybe the most iconic environmentalist on this planet, at least for sure one of them, Jane Goodall. Jane is the founder of the Jane Goodall Institute. She is the United Nations Messenger of Peace, but beyond everything, she is Jane Goodall. Please, Jane, come. Oh, there you are. I thought you were coming from there.
They changed it.
Jane, I think you feel welcome here. What a warm welcome.
I do indeed, and thank you, everybody.
You were, if I'm not wrong, 22. You lived in, if I'm not wrong, Bournemouth in southern England. And from there you went on to Africa, to the forest, to a life as much with chimpanzees as with humans. What will drive a young girl in Bournemouth into such a life?
Because I was born loving animals. When I was 10 years old, I had saved up enough money, we didn't have much money, to buy a little book called Tarzan of the Apes. I fell in love with Tarzan, was very jealous when he married the wrong Jane, and that was when I decided I would grow up, go to Africa, live with wild animals, and write books about them. Everybody laughed at me, except my mother, who said, if you really want this, you must work hard, take advantage of all opportunities, but don't give up. She was right.
Have you ever regretted?
No. No regrets.
In some of your interviews, you have said that Gombe Forest in Tanzania is your church.
It's very much, when I'm out in the rainforest, I have a spiritual connection because you understand the interconnectedness of all things where every little species has a role to play. And so protecting the rainforest, of course, it's desperately important for climate change with its ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, give out oxygen, protect what we call the ecosystem services of the forest, but clean water and air and protecting soil erosion. But for me, it's more than that. It's protecting something which, for me, is a connection to some great spiritual power. And that's why I have such affinity with the indigenous people around the world. We feel the same about the forest.
Most young people in today's world grow up in cities like San Francisco or Beijing or Nairobi. Can you describe to them and convince them about this spiritual relationship to nature? How can they experience that?
Well, we have this program, Roots and Shoots, in 80 countries around the world, children, young people of all ages. And it's most important to get them out into the forest, or at least into some kind of natural environment, because that connection with nature turns out to be really important for good psychological development.
At the end of the film, you said that forest is the forgotten solution, and that's of course what we really want to impress upon this audience also, that we can do so much more on the forest. How would you set out and convince people that forest is the forgotten solution to climate change and many other environment issues?
Well, I think that film says a lot. And, I want to thank Jeff Horowitz, whose idea it was, and also Alec Baldwin, who co-scripted it with me. And so how do we convince this audience? I guess this particular audience doesn't need convincing, but I go to many climate...
But they need the arguments to go and convince the neighbors and any political opponents.
Yeah, well, the point is I go to many conferences about climate change. And it's rare for the forest even to be mentioned. And yet saving the forest and restoring the forest is actually 1/3 of the solution. And we mustn't let it be the forgotten solution. That's the point.
And how do we achieve that? Is it about mobilizing the political will? Is it a matter of money? A matter of specific policies? I mean, how can we really take this a huge step upwards?
Well, I think, one of the things that's important is to really monitor the way some of the big corporations behave. And it's important that they source their products in a way which doesn't lead to the destruction of the forest. So actually public pressure can force companies to change, to really investigate how their products are sourced, where they come from. And this in turn can influence the political situation. It's a kind of circle. I mean, it's really, really important that each individual that everybody in this room, everybody listening, everybody around the planet understands that each one of us makes an impact on the planet every single day. We have a choice as to what kind of impact. So if we think about the consequences of what we buy, eat, wear, did it harm the environment? Has it destroyed forests? And if it has, then we've got to be strong enough to make that choice not to buy it. And that's what changes companies, and then it'll...
I mean, one of the questions I get most often, and I'm sure you get also, is, does it matter what I do? Can I, as a consumer or as a political activist or whatever, can I do something? And how would you set out that to, well, a young person in San Francisco ask you, what can I do? Can he or she do something?
Well, first of all, like I say, you can think about your choices. But, you know, one thing which people tend not to think about is the fact that as we eat more and more meat around the planet, it's not only leading to horrific conditions for billions of the animals we breed for food, but to feed them, we're destroying huge areas of environment and using masses of fossil fuel to get the grain, the soy, from the environment to the animals, to the abattoir, to the table. And it's also wasting water, because to change vegetable protein into animal protein is incredibly wasteful of water. And that's one of the things the forests protect. And, you know, we could, at a pinch, live without fossil fuel. We cannot live without water.
By 2050, the world population will be around 10 billion, which means there are 2.5 billion more people to feed. And we also have, of course, already many poor people who want a more interesting, more nutritious, better diet. Is it possible to increase agriculture production sufficiently without destroying forests?
Well, first of all, we have to. Secondly, I think Brazil was a wonderful example. They stopped deforestation and agricultural production went up. And we have to find ways of growing our food without this intensive agriculture. We have to go back to ways of working with nature, with permaculture, and that is really important.
No, we are obviously on the same line. What Brazil has achieved is simply remarkable, increasing agricultural production, bringing tens upon tens of millions of people out of poverty while protecting the forest at the same time. Let's move on to the second biggest rainforest nation, Indonesia. All the laws in Indonesia, I think, are flawless. They're brilliant. No one can find anything to criticize. And all big companies in Indonesia, paper and pulp or palm oil, has all promised zero deforestation. Still, there is substantial deforestation in Indonesia. So what do we get wrong, or what more can we do?
Well, I think it's a question of, you know, governments, like big business, bow to public pressure in the end. But it's up to people to elect governments that will actually enforce the legislation that's so often in place, until some presidents come along and turn everything upside down, push the clock back. That's going on in the United States right now.
Well, one thing I spend a lot of time thinking about is the following. I mean, I'm not aware of any human being with no love for nature. You are in love of the place where you were born or where you spend your holiday, or everyone has this deep down, this love of nature. And of course, and as you said, from your childhood in Bournemouth, there are so many people with pets or interest in animals. Still, we have not really been able to turn this desire to protect animals' nature into the strength of the movement which we need. Do we do something wrong, or is there a way we can more tap into this love of nature and make it a strong political campaign?
Well, this is what I'm trying to do. And young people very quickly learn to love nature. And as they grow up and move into positions of power, into politics, into business, but do we have time to wait? We have a window of time now, I firmly believe, if we all get together and we all use whatever ability we have to change things, then we can make this change that you're talking about. But there isn't a huge window of time. We do have to act now, all of us. And one thing I've noticed is that young people become very passionate. We have passionate young people all around the world fighting the problem of palm oil. And young people are able to influence their parents. That's absolutely for sure. So that's why I'm concentrating on youth, at the same time, talking to business and government and things like that.
Finally, you have spent 60 years plus with chimpanzees and other animals, but particularly with chimpanzees. How close are we to the chimpanzees?
Well, we share 98.6% of DNA with chimpanzees. But you know, I stopped living in the rainforest with the chimpanzees in 1986 when I realized the forests were disappearing right across Africa. And then traveling around the world, seeing the destruction with my own eyes. I've lived 84 years, so I've seen the change. I've seen the difference where acres of rainforest used to cover the land. And now we're losing 1 acre every second. That's why we have to act now.
So let's jointly form a strong coalition to achieve your aim.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are so inspiring, Jane, but I think you even want to bring another inspiring person to inspire us even more. You have a special guest which you want to introduce.
Yes, I want to introduce a special guest who's very well known, Dave Matthews, at the Dave Matthews Band. And more than a brilliant musician, he's a real friend. He's very active in environmental protection. He has created a wonderful atmosphere with his band, so all of them anxious to reduce their carbon footprint and making a huge success of it. So because Dave Matthews is a real friend, he's flown specially in to sing us 2 songs, because protecting the environment isn't just about facts and legislation. It's about spirituality and it's about having fun. And so I really am so grateful to Dave for coming to join us.
So welcome, Dave Matthews.
I told her I'm going to come and watch you.
Thank you so much, Dave, for helping us setting out the forgotten solution to the climate problem. Thanks for coming.
Trees. Yes, so Jane's leaving me, so I was going to play, but I think I'm just going to sit here and talk to you. It's a weird. I mean, I didn't know what to expect really, because Jane said, "Would you come and sing a little bit?" And I said, "Sure." I sort of knew that there's going to be some important people sitting around and talking, but I didn't really have any idea how many people would be here. So I've come to close the show, and that's pretty exciting. I do know that yesterday was exciting with some of the kids outside, and I do want to say that Jane and I were talking about it too, some of the young people that are anxious to be heard. I think it's very important that we somehow bridge the gap between those of us who have a voice and those people that feel voiceless but feel desperate about finding a solution. We have to figure out how to bridge that gap, because it's that kind of desperation that will give us a chance. Wherever the desperation is, we've got to give it a voice, wherever it is, because it's the right amount of desperation, which is absolute desperation.
Hey, you got it right. I was told to go and then told to come back, so I don't know where I'm meant to be now. Up there, perhaps.
I liked when you came on. It's like somehow you've turned it into a very serious, but also a little bit of a comedy routine, which is kind of how you are anyway.
Yeah.
And when this is all over, Jane and I are going to go and drink scotch together.
Eric expected me to come from there, and I was walking behind him. It was a hoot.
I watched that. The time is running out. But, oh yeah, buddy, thank you. I can't play the guitar without Craig. That's Craig. So I was glad that part of the conversation today is about the importance of listening to the indigenous people, because they know how to live where they live, and they know how it doesn't need to be replaced, but it needs to be embraced. And I just was very grateful to see that that voice was at least in part being listened to today. Come out, no use in hiding. Come now, can you not see? There's no place here, what were you expecting? Room for both, just room for me. Say you will lay your arms down. Yes, I will call this away, you have been banished. Your land is gone and give on to me. And as you go, I will spread my wings. Yes, I will call this home. What's this you say? You feel the right to remain, then stay, and I will bury you. What's this you say? Your father's spirit still lives in this place. Well, I will silence you. I will silence you. Here's the hitch, your horse is leaving. Don't miss your boat, it's leaving now. And as you go, I will spread my wings. Yes, I will call this I have no time to justify to you. Fool, you're blind. Move aside for me. And all I can say to you, my new neighbor, is you.
you must move on, or I will bury you. I will bury you. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made, and I'll build heaven and call it justice. I live with my greed and need. I live with no mercy and live with my friends their feet. And I live with my hatred. I live with my jealousy. Gotta live with the notion I don't need anyone but me. Don't drink the water. Don't drink the water. There's blood in the water. Don't drink the water. Don't drink the water. Don't drink the water. There's blood in the water. Don't drink the water. I'm gonna bring your body down. Don't drink the water.
I know you're probably starving, so I'll get through this. There's nothing worse than empathetic music on an empty stomach. I hope it comes across that way. Ooh. Thank you very much. This is this is a strange gig, let me tell you. I think that's a good message they out there. I like that. I think it's all of our last chance, so I concur. Not just Jerry Brown's, but I guess maybe his may be even faster. I think they're mixing career and life together. But anyway, they took a little bit of my time. I'll shorten my song, but I will say this: that you know, they could work on their harmonies, but it's a good message. I devote this to them. Don't give up.
some miracle to change things. So lift up your eyes, lift up your heart, singing, mercy will we overcome this. Oh, one by one could we turn it around, maybe carry on just a little bit longer. I wanna give you what you need. Me and you and you and you, we just wanna be free, yeah, yeah. But you see, all the world is just as we've made it. And until we got a new world, I got to say that love is not a whisper or a weakness. No, love is strong, so we got to get together. Yeah, we gotta get, till there is no reason to fight. Mercy, will we overcome this? Oh, one by one could we turn it around? Maybe carry on just a little bit longer. I wanna give you what you need. Mercy, what will become of us? Oh, we come too far to turn it around. Do we ask too much to be a little bit stronger? I wanna give you what you need. So lift up your eyes, lift up your heart. Thank you all very much. Good luck to us all.
What has been achieved in the fight to solve climate change over the past decade? Renewable energy is powering economies around the world, helping to make dirty fossil fuels obsolete. A transportation revolution is making mobility cleaner and safer today and in the future. Countries are building climate-friendly futures for their people through the adoption of the groundbreaking Paris Agreement. And the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol promises to dramatically cut harmful greenhouse gases and create energy-efficient cooling for people around the world. And a movement made up of millions of people fighting to protect the air they breathe and the communities they call home. Together with our public and private sector partners, philanthropy has supported the dynamic community of NGOs and others driving this progress. But it's not enough. Governments, NGOs, and the private sector must do more. And philanthropy can help catalyze action. As the realities of a warming planet become more urgent, there is only one path to take: forward together. Forward to sustainable economies thriving on clean energy jobs. Forward to increase support for partners ready to speed and scale their impact. Forward to healthy lands, waters, and people. And forward to a future bright with hope for our planet. We must all engage on the global threat of climate change like never before. Philanthropy can help take us forward together.
Okay, you hungry? You're hungrier for change, right? Yes, you are. Let that pain in your belly remind you that there is a pain that is greater than your stomach, which is the condition of the planet. So, we've drawn the blueprints for our future economy. You've seen the outlines of it today. All these plans, though, they've got one thing in common. They all require ready, dedicated capital to become reality. So you know this, according to the World Bank, keeping global temperature rise within 2 degrees Celsius is going to require $4.1 trillion of incremental investment. And in that context, the Paris goal of mobilizing $100 billion a year for climate mitigation and adaptation in developing countries is just, it's not enough. It's far from sufficient. So to win this fight against climate change, the entire global financial system has got to realign itself to divest from dirty energy and invest in clean energy. So we're going to hear from leaders in philanthropy and government and finance who are helping to create that system. I want you to welcome the co-founder of the Sea Change Foundation, Nat Simons, the CEO of the Children's Investment Fund, Kate Hampton, and the president of the McKnight Foundation, Kate Walford.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We are here on behalf of a large group of philanthropists around the world who share a deep commitment to combating climate change. More importantly, we're here with and on behalf of organizations around the world who are leading this change, who are making progress every day. They are truly leaders in this effort. As many have said, climate impacts are increasingly visible across the globe. Food insecurity, compromised human health, extreme weather events, and more. But we stand here today in hope. We have great hope because we see the momentum that is happening in every corner of our planet. Momentum as clean energy markets scale rapidly. Momentum as governments at every level raise their ambition and, more importantly, act on that ambition. And most importantly, we stand here in hope because of people who are united around the world to take decisive action.
As climate philanthropists, we are committed to supporting the vast array of solutions required to make progress. That is why we are proud to be here on behalf of these 29 donors to announce a joint commitment of $4 billion over the next 5 years to combat climate change. Yeah, give it up. Right. See? We thought only Dave Matthews was going to get that kind of attention, but by the way, he was great. Dave Matthews was awesome. We didn't really want to follow him, but it was cool watching him back there, so that was. But philanthropists can and must work together to catalyze, to engage governments, the business community, and NGOs to accelerate progress on climate change. The multi-billion-dollar commitment announced today is only a down payment. Together, we'll need to invest more, much more, and soon. Philanthropists can. We all can. We have to work together. The down payment we're making today should be used to accelerate proven climate strategies based on facts and science. Imagine that. To spur the innovation and adoption of promising solutions, and to support the millions of advocates and citizens working around the world, from Detroit to Shanghai, to protect the air they breathe and the communities they call home. As a philanthropist and an investor, I feel hopeful. We are seeing the beginning of a transformation with vast new investments in clean energy and low-carbon businesses. Thank you.
We're convinced that climate philanthropy can accomplish these tasks because progress is already being made. That's why we will continue to support work across the globe, from climate-smart transportation in Brazil to the renewable energy transition in Asia and the enforcement of air quality regulation across the EU. We have just a few years to turn the hopeful signs we've seen into lasting action and to ensure that the world is on course to keep global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius as promised in Paris. And in so doing, we will make progress simultaneously on improving public health, economic opportunity, and the quality of life of children and the most vulnerable,
who will bear the brunt of climate change but played no part in creating it. We're proud to represent a group of philanthropists who will do everything we can to make this first $4 billion just the first step in realizing the much, much higher levels of philanthropic commitments needed to save all of us from climate change, especially those very inspiring young people.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
And now, please welcome the Mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio.
Well, everyone, I want to start by giving a big thank you to our host, the indispensable Jerry Brown. And I want to give my deepest thanks to all of you for being forceful agents of change. Give your neighbor a round of applause, please. I am the mayor of a city shaken to consciousness 6 years ago by a monster storm, Hurricane Sandy. October 29th, 2012 was the before and after date for us as New Yorkers, a day we can never remember, never forget, and that we remember deeply as that moment when our lives changed. 44 dead, 19 billion in damage, whole neighborhoods flattened. You will not find a lot of climate change deniers in my city anymore. And now, in this state, so much of California is burning, and we think of the Carolinas with Hurricane Florence bearing down on them. The signs couldn't be clearer. We could lose our planet. To survive, we have to upend our whole way of doing things, and that begins with the way we invest in the future. In January, New York City became the first U.S. city to begin divesting its pension assets from fossil fuels. We are taking $5 billion out of the hands of that dying and broken industry. And then earlier this week, we joined with another great city, one of the great financial capitals of the world, London, to build a coalition of cities dedicated to divestment. We want to unleash the power of the local level, the power of the grassroots to forge ahead when nations falter. We will act when nations fail, including our own. Yesterday, we made yet another announcement. While some institutional investors are putting 1% of their assets into climate solutions, we looked at our portfolio and we looked at our planet, and we decided, let's do more. It's time to go farther. So we're investing 2% of our pension assets, $4 billion in climate solutions. This is one step forward and one step toward a huge global response to climate change. It will take investing $1 trillion a year for 3 decades to keep this planet livable. But brothers and sisters, we can do it. New York City isn't just investing in hydro and solar and wind, we're investing in momentum for change. Imagine what could happen if everyone took that 2% investment pledge. If the top 50 United States pension funds invested 2%, that would be enough to convert half the homes in America to solar power. If every United States pension fund invested 2%, that would be $200 billion, a major step on the road to the $1 trillion we need to keep climate change at bay each year. So I'm asking pension funds across this nation and all over the world to come join us. Pull your money out of a doomed fossil fuel industry. It's time for something different and something better. Let's make investment in climate solutions the foundation of change. And I'm asking all of you, whether you run a pension fund or you just have your retirement in one, go home and demand a 2% commitment to saving our Earth. I understand it's a big goal, but the largest city in the United States of America has acted. Join us to push the boundaries of what's possible. You know, a great philosopher, Frank Sinatra once sang of New York City, "If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere." Well, I say if we can make it happen in New York City, you can make it happen where you live. Put your money into the technologies that will save us all and help to break a vicious cycle that we've lived with for too long. Because today, in the coal mines of West Virginia and the shale fields of North Dakota and the oil refineries of Louisiana, folks feel trapped. Their jobs won't last, but they don't see an alternative. We can fund a whole new economy in their backyard that offers both a paycheck and a planet they can live on. Let me conclude with this thought. I know many of you here have spent your lives fighting against the deniers and the cynics, the folks who ignore reality, the folks who say these problems are too hard to fix. Well, the next time you encounter one of them, tell them that New York City, the home of Wall Street, is divesting from the old and investing in the new. And we're saying loud and clear, fossil fuel investments aren't just toxic for our planet, they're toxic for our portfolios too. Brothers and sisters, fossil fuels belong in only one place, stranded in the ground. Let's all make sure they stay there. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Please welcome CEO of the Pensions Concerns Administration and Chair of the Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change, Peter Damgaard Jensen.
It's a privilege to be here today. Like all of you, I understand the urgency of addressing climate change and everything we stand to gain by taking the necessary action. A growing number of investors are of the same mind. In my role with the Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change, I'm excited to see an ever-growing membership working to deepen the investor-led agenda on climate action across Europe. Momentum is also building globally. Take Climate Action 100+, an initiative in which the IIGCC is significantly involved. Over 280 investors, including PKA, are working through shareholder engagement to help cut emissions of the largest corporate greenhouse gas emitters across the global economy. Yet, investors can, should, and need to do more. And PKA, one of Denmark's largest pension funds, is committed to helping lead the way. This includes working to align our $43 billion investments portfolio with the goals of the Paris Agreement. To this end, we have committed to ensuring 10% of all investments PKA make directly support the low carbon transition. And I'm delighted to announce that we are well on our way to achieve this goal. Today, we already have 3.5 billion of green investments in place. That's 7% of our overall assets working for a cleaner, greener, more sustainable future. By 2020, this figure will have risen to $5 billion, and we hope to build on this further going forward. Just last week, I joined the opening of the world's largest offshore wind farm at the UK coast, in which we have a 25% stake. It's just one example of a raft of similar investments we are making. Projects that create jobs, reduce emissions, provide cleaner air, and provide the infrastructure on which a future thriving climate-resilient global economy depends. But let me be clear. We are asset managers, not campaigners or philanthropists. It's imperative that the business case stacks up, and it does. PKA's climate-related investment portfolio has returned 10% annually since inception. Our investments provide the healthy returns required to fund our members' retirements while showing that green investment can be just as beneficial for the bottom line of the climate. Green investments, sustainable investments, call it what you will, is becoming increasingly mainstream, and put it simply, smart investments. Any investor who fails to grasp the scale of this opportunity will simply be left behind. We are far from alone understanding this. PKA is also one of over 390 other investors who are proudly part of the investor agenda, also launched here at the Climate Summit. It offers a way for the investor community to collectively demonstrate the ways we are working to shift the trillions. Across investment, corporate engagement, disclosure, and political engagement, we can also build on existing momentum, a way to scale up the investor action so valuable in helping deliver the goals of the Paris Agreement. As Lord Stern explained yesterday, the new climate economy has shown that bolder action on climate change can add $23 trillion across the global economy by 2030. That's what I call a clear incentive to continue building on the momentum so apparent here in San Francisco. Let's get going with renewed vigor and even greater commitment. We have everything to gain. Thank you.
Okay, people, do not leave. I know there was some miscommunication. Some of you may have thought that we were nearing the end. We are nearing the end, but there's a blockbuster ending, so do not leave. So I am super excited to introduce the concept of decarbonization, and one of the hugest leaders is in Costa Rica. I am so pleased to be able to welcome Minister Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, who has been a great champion of decarbonization. Please give him a good welcome and stay. Go ahead.
Gracias. Good evening. Happy to be here. In 2 weeks, the President of Costa Rica, Carlos Alvarado, will be attending the General Assembly of the UN in New York, and he will be presenting the Costa Rican decarbonization plan. This is great. This is fabulous. But this is not new for Costa Rica. Costa Rica has been decarbonizing the economy even before the Climate Change Convention came into action. In the last 30 years, Costa Rica has not only stopped deforestation, but doubled the size of the forest, while we triple our economy, proving that protecting nature is a sound, good investment. And let me make a parenthesis here, because we don't only have a climate crisis, we also have a biodiversity crisis. Nature is 30% of the solution, and we are not properly allocating the resources for nature-based solutions. So we double the size of our forest while we triple the economy, but at the same time, we are 99.7 renewable energy in our electric sector. We don't have emissions. Costa Rica doesn't have emissions from deforestation, land use change, or in the way we generate our energy, the two most important carbon sources to the atmosphere. We don't have it at all, nothing. As a matter of fact, 15 years ago, that was 4 governments ago, meaning 3 political parties ago, Costa Rica banned oil and gas drilling. We'll never, ever take those resources out of the underground, not because we got strong moral value, because it doesn't make any economic, financial sense to Costa Rica. Costa Rica makes $3.5 billion a year by protecting nature, ecotourism, payment for environmental services based on carbon. So the president is presenting this in a couple of weeks. By the way, President Alvarado is 20 years younger than me. I love to work with a energetic, irreverent kid as my president. Costa Rica is probably the only country in the world where the president is 20 years younger than the Minister of Environment. So he understands, he gets the points, he connects the dots. He has this sense of generational responsibility, and I trust that he will lead us into this change. So next December 1st, the president will do the formal launch and announcement of the Costa Rican decarbonization. This is dealing with the transportation sector, dealing with agriculture, dealing with solid waste. Why the 1st of December? Because that's the day Costa Ricans celebrate and commemorate the day that we abolished the army in 1948. Costa Rica has no army. We abolished the army. Now we are going to abolish the use of fossil fuels. That was done by President Figueres in 1948. Yes, you guessed correct. President Figueres is the father of Cristiana Figueres and Jose Maria Figueres, two of the most strongest environmentalists in Costa Rica. So we got this iconic image of President Figueres, 1948, with a sledgehammer hitting the wall of the Army headquarters, a strong symbol. My job will be putting the Costa Rican president with a sledgehammer, giving a strong hit to a power plant that we will close while we announce the decarbonization plan for Costa Rica. This plan, according to our plan, by 2030, my grandkids will have a carbon footprint equal to my grandfather's carbon footprint in 1950. And by 2050, Costa Rica will be totally and absolute carbon neutral, and it will be a thriving economy and a just society. Buenas tardes, que pasen muy buen día.
Welcome everyone, I'm Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, and I'm delighted to open the carbon neutrality section of the closing plenary at the Global Climate Action Summit. Addressing climate change is a priority for the New Zealand government. Some of the work we're doing includes introducing a zero carbon bill this year. We've ceased issuing any new permits for offshore oil and gas exploration in New Zealand, and we will plant 1 billion trees in the next 10 years. We also recognise the importance of our private sector and their work as they address climate change. The Climate Leaders Coalition of 60 CEOs representing around half of New Zealand's greenhouse gas emissions committed to play their part in low emissions and support the Paris Agreement. And the New Zealand Farming Leaders Group has committed to work with the government to achieve net zero emissions from agri-food production by 2050. We know climate change presents a very real threat to our Pacific neighbours, and we are committed to supporting them. And New Zealand is a proud champion of the Carbon Neutrality Coalition with the Republic of the Marshall Islands. I want to acknowledge, in particular, the leadership that's being shown globally, particularly by President Macron's leadership at the One Planet Summit last year, where this coalition was announced. Summits such as this are an opportunity for climate leaders to stand united and to say that we will take action together and be ambitious on setting ourselves on a path towards a low emissions future. The next generation should expect no less from us.
Please welcome the CEO of the European Climate Foundation and convener of the 2050 Pathways Platform, Lawrence Tubiana.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I know it's late, but I think we will be very efficient. I'm very excited to be among you all today. So many leaders who have presented such bold commitments and action and are raising our collective action to stop climate change. The landmark Paris Agreement includes a clear call for a balance between emissions and removal of greenhouse gases, a call for carbon neutrality at the global, national, and local level. The challenge is clear. We need to bring emissions down to zero wherever feasible and use things and forest and agriculture to neutralize the rest. The earlier we will be able to achieve this, the closer we'll be keeping to temperature increase to 1.5 degrees, our goal. We will avert then the severe runaway of climate impacts. If we are serious about preserving our planet, carbon neutrality must be both our guiding star and our common goal. Envision a carbon neutral world can be daunting, but we have heard from Summit co-chair Arnand Mahindra, who announced yesterday the Mahindra Group's commitment, new target of achieving carbon neutrality by 2040. It's about drawing a plan to open opportunities as well as to preempt potential roadblocks and to mitigate them. It's about drawing a plan for the long term that also guides near-term decision. And I'm so happy to see that all over the summit, I hear that net zero is now becoming our rallying cry. In that spirit, let me now introduce some of those who are endeavoring to realize this vision of carbon neutrality. It's my pleasure to welcome one of them now, a leader of the Green Movement in Europe, he and Governor Brown, who has just announced zero carbon energy by 2040 and carbon neutrality by 2045. They have been in the fight together since they launched the Under 2 coalition, an alliance of states and regional government devoted to keeping global temperature increases under 2 degrees. Please welcome Minister President Winfried Kretschmann from Baden-Württemberg, Germany. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to address you in this final session of the Climate Summit. First and foremost, I wish to thank Governor Brown for organizing this Climate Summit. California has been a fantastic host, and I wish to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for all your ideas and energetic efforts for our worldwide climate protection. I will now continue in German. Als Gouverneur Brown und ich vor 3 Jahren die Under 2 Coalition ins Leben gerufen haben, sind wir mit 12 Mitgliedern gestartet. Heute sind es über 220 Das haben wir auch der kraftvollen und charismatischen Persönlichkeit von Jerry Brown zu verdanken. Allerdings stellen wir nicht nur schöne Zahlen ins Schaufenster, wir handeln auch und diese Botschaft senden wir von San Francisco aus.
When Governor Brown and I 3 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, established the Under 2 Coalition, we started out with 12 members. Today, we are more than 220. And this is something we are also owing to the powerful and charismatic personality of Jerry Brown. Moreover, we are not just showing off with impressive numbers, we are also acting, and that is the message that we are sending out from San Francisco.
Meine Damen und Herren, unsere Klimaschutzkoalition ist eine Koalition der praktischen Vernunft. Wir entwerfen keine Utopien, wir schieben die Verantwortung nicht auf andere ab. Wir tun selbst etwas, um die weitere Erwärmung unseres Planeten zu stoppen. Mit mehr als 2300 ganz konkreten Maßnahmen. Das ist Ihr Verdienst, meine Damen und Herren, und das ist das Ergebnis unserer gemeinsamen und solidarischen Arbeit.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Climate Protection Coalition is a coalition of common sense because we don't dream up utopias, we don't shift the responsibility to others, we are actively doing something to halt the continued heating up of our planet. And we are doing this with 2,300 concrete measures. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your achievement, and it is also the result of our joint and solidary efforts.
Solidarität bedeutet in unserem Bündnis vor allem praktische Solidarität. Deshalb unterstützen wir mit unserem Future Fund Regionen in Lateinamerika, Afrika oder Asien, die ebenfalls ihren Beitrag zum weltweiten Klimaschutz leisten wollen. Und wir zeigen dadurch, wir sind kein exklusiver Club, sondern offen für alle, die sich uns anschließen wollen.
And solidarity in our coalition means first and foremost practical solidarity. And this is why we support the Future Fund and support regions in Latin America, Africa, and Asia that also want to make their contributions to the worldwide work against climate destruction.
Meine Damen und Herren, mein Land Baden-Württemberg gehört zu den Gründern der Under 2 Coalition. Das ist für uns ein großer Ansporn, eine große Verpflichtung. Deshalb kündige ich heute an, wir machen unsere Landesverwaltung per Gesetz und in der Praxis bis zum Jahre 2040 klimaneutral, investieren Hunderte von Millionen in energetische Modernisierung unserer Gebäude und machen bis 2050 ganz Baden-Württemberg klimaneutral. Ein ehrgeiziges Ziel, aber ein machbares Ziel, wenn man Ökonomie und Ökologie miteinander verbindet. Und das ist die große Aufgabe, diese Transformation der Ökonomie zur Ökologie hin zu erreichen.
Ladies and gentlemen, my state, Baden-Württemberg, belongs to the founders of the Under 2 Coalition. And this is our big motivation. It is also our special commitment. And this is why I'll announce here now that we are making our state administration by law and in practice carbon neutral by 2040. We are investing hundreds of millions. We are investing hundreds of millions into the energetic refurbishing of buildings, and we will make the whole of Baden-Württemberg carbon neutral by 2050. It's an ambitious goal, but it is an achievable one if economy and ecology are harmoniously combined. And this will transform Baden-Württemberg into the future from autoland to mobility land.
Und diese Transformation vom Autoland zum Mobilitätsland mit emissionsfreien Autos, einer umfassenden Vernetzung aller Verkehrsträger, mehr Bus und Bahn, mehr Wege und mehr Platz für Radfahrer, Schnellradwege in den großen Metropolen, auch ein gutes Mittel gegen Staus. Bald rollen die ersten reinen Elektro-Daimlers vom Band und dann der erste elektrische Sportwagen von Porsche.
And this transformation from Autoland and into Mobility Land, that will include zero-emission cars. It will include comprehensive connectivity of all transport modes, more buses and trains, and more routes and space for bicycle riders. We are going to create bicycle freeways in the metropolitan areas because that is the best way against congestion.
Meine Damen und Herren.
And very soon, the first pure electro-Daimler will come off the assembly line. And this will very soon followed by the first electric Porsche sports car.
Meine Damen und Herren, in meinem Land wurde vor 130 Jahren der Verbrennungsmotor erfunden. Und es zeigt, unsere Vision von Zero Emission wird Realität. Und wenn wir gemeinsam an dieser Vision arbeiten, meine Damen und Herren, dann können wir den Klimawandel auch stoppen. Davon sind wir fest überzeugt. Herzlichen Dank.
Ladies and gentlemen, in our state, 130 years ago, the combustion engine was invented. And it is a fact now that we are going to make the vision of zero emission reality. And when we are all working together for this vision, ladies and gentlemen, we will be able to stop the climate change. We are convinced of that. Thank you for your attention.
I'm now pleased to invite Mayor Councillor Zandile Gunede of South Africa, Durban, and the eThekwini community municipality. Please, Mayor, come. Mayor Gunede represents the cities around the world that have committed to carbon neutrality, and she can speak from experience about what it is like to move from commitment to action.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Cities are where most of us now live. They are also where most of the world carbon emissions takes place. And like my own city, most are on the coast, especially vulnerable to some of the devastating impacts of climate change. From Durban to Houston, mayors from C40 cities are already seeing more droughts, more storms, and more fires. To create a different future, the future we want, we know we need to set science-based goals to deliver the Paris Agreement, and cities are leading the way. Today, our global network of cities has announced that 73 mayors from every continent, representing almost 500 million citizens, are now committed to do just that. By 2020, we will develop and begin implementing a plan that achieves an early peak in emissions and then cuts or constrains carbon pollution so that our cities become carbon neutral by 2050, in line with the 1.5-degree goal of the Paris Agreement. The collective impact is impressive. This increased ambition from cities will prevent an additional 12 gigatons of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere by 2050, on top of existing action. And we know that for every ton of carbon dioxide, every lump of coal, every tank of gas we don't burn, that is a safer climate and another child able to breathe more easily from cleaner air. There are huge benefits to be reaped. The transformation can help end the 4.5 million premature deaths caused each year by polluted air, create millions of high-quality sustainable jobs, and build the resilient infrastructure urgently needed in fast-growing urban centers, particularly in the global south. It is an incredible opportunity to fight inequality while tackling climate change. The fossil fuel economy has created a deeply unequal world with 1 billion people living in slums. Climate change exacerbates these inequalities. For this reason, together with more than 30 fellow mayors of cities, I have pledged to increase community-led development and inclusive climate action. Inequality and climate change and are the two major plagues of our time. If addressed together, they can be defeated. Power to all the committed cities, power. Amandla.
Bravo. Thank you, Mayor Councillor. And here now we have to tell about our efforts to fully decarbonize our portfolio in alignment with the goals of the Paris Agreement is someone who is at the forefront of this movement, at the head of wholesale banking at ING. Please welcome Isabel Fernandez.
Thank you so much. So, financial services can play a huge role in addressing climate change, particularly banks through their lending activities. ING has long made sustainability part of its daily focus by investing billions of dollars into financing renewable energy projects all the way from wind farms to electric vehicles. Sustainability is also part of our every conversation we have with our clients. But now it's time to pledge our commitment to doing more, to doing it faster, in support of decarbonization. Starting immediately, ING is going to steer its lending portfolio of nearly $600 billion towards keeping the global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius in support of the goals of the Paris Agreement. We will do this with a pioneering science-based methodology co-created with the 2 Degrees Investing Initiative. It measures whether our credit portfolio is aligned with the 2 degrees Celsius roadmaps. With this methodology, we'll be able to leverage our lending portfolio to speed up the shift in technologies needed to combat climate change, to arrive to carbon neutrality by mid-century, as required by climate science. So we call this approach Terra, and it works by benchmarking our clients and the sectors our clients operate in against science-based scenarios developed by independent, credible institutions like the International Energy Agency. Where there are no guidelines, we will work with partners to develop science-based scenarios. By advising on and financing the technology shifts that are needed, we'll accelerate our clients and our portfolio towards the 2 degrees path. This makes us the first bank to commit to science-based climate scenarios in our business strategy. Now, in the absence of industry standards, we're going to make Terra open source so that anyone can use it, anyone can help improve it, and contribute to financing the change that the world needs. Please join us in this battle against climate change, starting right now. Thank you.
For years, Many companies have been pursuing carbon neutrality as a matter of responsible governance. But now leading companies are thinking much more ambitiously, pushing the bar to more directly drive emission out of their operation, including through direct sourcing of clean power. Some companies are also pushing beyond carbon neutrality towards net negative emission. Please welcome to the stage Jay Gould, the CEO of Interface Carpet, the world's largest manufacturer of carpet tile and one of the world leaders in climate action. Interface first announced a commitment to carbon neutrality in 2004. And Jay is here with us today to share their achievements and next steps.
Hi. If you're not familiar with Interface, we're a small billion-dollar company based in America, but with business all around the world. We have 4,000 people on behalf of whom I say thank you for including us today. Many of you probably know our founder, Ray Anderson, who, yeah, thank you. I feel like I'm channeling Ray a little bit today. I'm in California, so. And amazingly, it was 25 years ago next year that Ray started our conversation on climate action. He built an aggressive vision of zero negative impact. And during that process, he transformed our business, he transformed our factories, but probably most importantly, he transformed our employees. We are different than we were 25 years ago. You know, Ray made a pledge that we call Mission Zero, and it was a pledge to you to have no negative impact on the Earth by the year 2020. Ray died in 2011, but I am so proud to share that in the last 2 decades, the people of Interface have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 96%. That's huge. Also, during that time, we have built a business that runs on 88% renewable energy. We've reduced the carbon footprint of our products by over 60% in collaboration with our entire supply chain partners. I believe that our work is proof that zero is possible. If Interface can do it, any company can do it. And if any company can do it, every company should do it. I think, you know, we're proof that not only zero is possible, but also profitable. Ray built the business case for sustainability. Now, as I said, Ray died in 2011, but when I joined the company, I wanted to make sure that we delivered on his commitments to get to zero. And again, I'm proud to say that today, in 2018, we have achieved carbon neutrality across our entire business. So two years early, we've achieved this. But not to be a downer on this entire summit, but zero is not enough. What Ray helped us recognize is that our ambitions and our commitments have to be so bold, and that we have to go beyond zero. So today, Interface is committing to be more than carbon neutral. We pledge to become carbon negative by 2040. Thank you. We are committed to take back our climate and to transform our business once again. And we will shift our business model from a company that emits and reduces carbon, to one that utilizes and stores carbon in our products and in our operations. And thank you. We'll do this by innovating within our supply chain and with our raw materials. Already, we're investing in research and development to make our products with carbon sequestering materials and to operate our factories in a way that store, not emit carbon. So that's our vision. But today, we not only commit ourselves, but we ask you to commit your organizations to join us in taking back our climate. And together, we can prove that a thriving business can also build a better world. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And I can tell I look at the technology is really, really amazing. Thank you, Jay. So many among us here today are moving the planet towards carbon neutrality. And in fact, I'm happy to announce that more than 100 cities, states, global companies, and countries represented here today have committed to carbon neutrality by mid-century or sooner. What they set out to do is not easy, and I think it will appear here. These actors will be tackling the barriers toward carbon neutrality, all these cities, and they are not a small one. They show unique qualities of a leader, courage and responsibility. They are shouldering the responsibility of action that needs to happen immediately and are courageous to aim for the highest ambition. We can celebrate that dynamic, but we have to ensure that many more join. Remember, net zero, carbon by 2050 is our common goal. Let's do it together.
Okay, so these pledges to carbon neutrality are showing us where we have to go, but we can't wait till tomorrow to get started. We need action now. So I'm going to bring two important people to the stage. They continue to push us all to be bigger and bolder and better. Patricia Espinosa, the UN Executive Secretary, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And the President of the Marshall Islands, Hilda Heine. So for too long, each passing generation has left their children with a global environment that is more polluted and more dangerous, and that can and must stop. For the first time in centuries, we can leave the planet, please, and the next generation a better world than what we are in right now. Young people are not just the beneficiaries of this work, they are the ones leading the way, and one of these leaders is with us right now. Please welcome the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, Jayathma Wickramanayake.
Good afternoon. This week, we are working against more than climate change. We are working against the idea that this problem is too big and the world too divided to make meaningful progress. Everything we've heard today and yesterday proves that this idea is wrong. That's why I'm so grateful to all of you who are here and to the millions of people you represent for making these commitments, for stepping up to one of the greatest challenges the world has ever known. As the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, I am here to tell you, young people are your allies in this cause. In fact, all around the world, young people are already leading the way. In my home country, Sri Lanka, young engineers are engineering a locally made fleet of electric vehicles. In Guyana, young people are educating and empowering indigenous children to protect the rainforest. And from Australia to Europe to right here in the United States, youth-led campaigns have persuaded hundreds of institutions and local governments to divest from fossil fuels. For years, we have made this a cause, a part of our daily lives through our choices and our actions. Across an entire generation and an entire planet, we are changing the behaviors of multi-billion-dollar corporations. We are changing the policies of governments. We are changing the world. I'm heartened by our progress on climate change, but I'm impatient for more progress. As co-chair of this summit, I'm pleased to share that the commitments we are making here are an important step forward. In the last 2 days, we have pledged to take bold action for people and planet. Over 100 mayors, state and regional leaders, and CEOs have committed to become emissions neutral by 2050 at the latest, and in line with the 1.5-degree goal of the Paris Agreement. 488 businesses will set science-based targets to ensure that they are part of the climate solution. More than 60 CEOs, state and regional leaders, and mayors are committed to delivering 100% zero-emission transport future by 2030, putting us on an irreversible road towards decarbonization. 38 cities, major businesses, state and regional governments have committed to net zero carbon buildings, cutting emissions equivalent to more than 50 coal-fired power stations. More than 100 indigenous groups, state and local governments and businesses launched a forest, food and land-focused coalition to deliver 30% of climate solutions needed by 2030. Nearly 400 investors with 32 trillion under management will work to ensure a low-carbon transformation of the global economy with the urgency required to meet the challenge. These commitments deserve to be celebrated. And of course, they need to be met. But on behalf of young people across the planet, the largest generation in history, the people who will inherit the future we are building today, my message is simple. Don't stop. Let's aim even higher.
Ladies and gentlemen, 73 years ago, in this city, nations ravaged by war, wary of its cost, pledged to achieve what had for the first half of the century been impossible, a lasting peace. The signing of the UN Charter here in San Francisco was more than an agreement to get along. It established a rules-based international order, championed multilateralism over self-interest, and clarified that the path forward was not through conflict, but collaboration. The day the Charter was signed, the American President Harry Truman told delegates, "You, members of this conference, are to be the architects of the better world. In your hands rests our future." While challenges remain, we live in that better world. On average, we are healthier, better educated, and more peaceful than at any point in history. But today, humanity faces a new challenge, one that threatens current and future generations. Climate change is an opponent we shaped with our own hands, but whose power now threatens to overwhelm us. It's a problem that a rules-based international order is custom designed to address, which led to the Paris Agreement. Its signing was unprecedented multilateral success. Its framework contains everything we need to address climate change. In these last days, we have repeatedly heard that if we do not step up to the challenge, climate change will have a devastating impact upon lives everywhere and will destabilize the global order. All of this while the window of opportunity to address climate change gets smaller and smaller. Never have we needed multilateralism like we do right now. Never have we needed the international community to come together like right now. Never have we needed the promises of 1945 to be fulfilled like we do right now. But just when we need it most, our rules-based order is questioned. Throughout the world, we are witnessing a great turning inwards. It's happening at exactly the worst time. We're faced with two great challenges: the challenge of climate change, and the challenge of ensuring multilateralism, a system that has been the bedrock of peace for almost 3/4 of a century, remains our guide forward. Today's summit represents a clear and undeniable statement that not only will we work together to address climate change, but that far from abandoning multilateralism, we will build on it. It's a clear declaration that those gathered here are stepping up action to put us on track for a climate-safe, healthy world for all. I want you to know that we have heard you loud and clear. This summit will help us achieve our collective goal to boost ambition that we need to address climate change. We must increase climate action and create unstoppable momentum towards COP24 in Poland and the Secretary General's 2019 Climate Summit. Let us build upon the incredible enthusiasm and commitment that we have witnessed here by embracing what I call inclusive multilateralism, one that recognizes the need for more voices at the table, not fewer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the call to action outcome from this summit that I'm about to receive, or komoltada, as we say in Marshallese, on behalf of a grateful nation. Your call to action means everything to my country and to the other vulnerable countries of the world, because it can help protect our future, but ultimately it will also help all of our futures, because nobody will be immune from the worst impacts that are to come. We are all vulnerable. As we heard from the UN Secretary General this week, we are quite simply out of time. If we do not increase global ambition by 2020, then we will not be able to stay within 1.5 degrees temperature as we agreed in Paris. In other words, the world is on the edge of unleashing a catastrophic climate crisis of our own making. My country is on the front line of the fight, and we have nowhere to retreat to. As this Climate Action Summit has shown, we need every country to raise their ambition, but we also need every city, every state, every company, and every citizen to also do the same. And today, I've seen and heard that you are prepared to help lead in that effort. I want to say that my country hears you, those committed to ambition hear you, and the rest of the world will surely hear you. Like you, some of the world's most vulnerable countries are also prepared to lead in the fight. That is why on the 22nd of November, I will convene a groundbreaking virtual climate summit as part of the Marshall Islands presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. The summit would also be zero carbon and held entirely online. And today, I call on each of you to participate by submitting a statement, and I call on you to encourage your governments to express their support. The virtual climate summit is open to everyone. Join us. For our own part, the Marshall Islands is prepared to once again lead by example. Earlier this year, we announced that we would increase our own NDC by 2020, and my cabinet has recently finalized a landmark 2050 strategy that will chart a pathway to net zero emissions. I will have more to say on this in New York, but like you, the big message to everyone else will be, if we can do it, so can you. And finally, at the request of Governor Brown and the summit's co-chairs, the iAmbition Coalition, which the Marshall Islands convenes, has pledged to now take the baton forward and be the political bridge and champions for ensuring that national governments, including our own, respond to your call of action. The Talanoa Dialogue at COP24 and the UN Secretary General's Climate Summit next year are our two biggest opportunities, including through delivering enhanced NDCs and long-term decarbonization plans to reach net zero emissions, as well as providing additional support for those of us that need it most. This call to action I'm about to receive is inspiring. Your leadership is inspiring. Your determination is inspiring. And together, we can save the world. Governor Brown, to you, I say komoltada. Thank you for your climate leadership, and komoltada to all of you. Thank you.
Today, the thousands of leaders gathered here at the Global Climate Action Summit, representing states, regions, cities, businesses, investors, and our communities around the world, are asking our national governments to answer our call to action. We are calling on our leaders. We have a message for you. The world needs you to step up your ambition now, by committing to increased climate action and enhanced national determined contributions, consistent with what science tells us is needed to achieve the Paris Agreement. You must chart a clear path to a low-carbon future by developing net zero mid-century emissions plans to guide long-term economic growth that encourages technological transformation, ensures decent jobs, and increases community resilience as we race towards a carbon-neutral future. And we need you to empower bottom-up climate action. We call on you to work with us to accelerate climate efforts through inclusive, transparent planning and dialogues that empower businesses, cities, states, investors, civil society, and individuals. Will you, Executive Secretary Espinosa, take this call back to the COP24 UN Secretary General Summit in 2019 and forward to 2020 as we strengthen the Paris Agreement? And then I ask you, President Heine, to take this call on behalf of the High Ambition Coalition and all nations. But who will take this call to the people? Excellent. Oh, there's some more people who will take this to the people. Great. That wasn't planned at all. Thank you. We ask again the national governments to stand with us. And together, we will write the only story that is bigger than climate change, the story of climate justice. Thank you.
All right. What you've all been waiting for, I am so proud to call to the stage our final speaker, the leader who has brought us all here today. Please welcome the great 39th Governor of California, Jerry Brown.
Thank you. You've heard all the messages. We've seen the movies. We've got the call. No more talk. Now's the time for action. But I do want to add one more thing. In California, with science under attack, in fact, we're under attack by a lot of people, including Donald Trump, but the climate threat still keeps growing. So we want to know what the hell's going on all over the world all the time. So we're going to launch our own satellite, our own damn satellite, to figure out where the pollution is and how we're going to end it with great precision. This initiative will enable us to spotlight the methane, the pollution, and then be able to be in a position to point out those who pollute and then develop the remedies to end it. There's a lot of good stuff. Yes, this is an existential threat. We got a long way to go. It's not perfect, but never have so many people got together with such optimism, such fervor, and such will. Thank yourselves. Give yourselves a big applause. We will fight the climate challenge, and we will succeed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Brown. Okay, we're calling a break for lunch. Go eat. It's available on the exhibition level. And then be sure to come back because the final sessions are here in Moscone South. Thanks so much for this incredible session.